Which Bookers of 2022 was the best? It's time to find out. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch, and thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So today we have an awesome video brought to you because of the generosity of a fan of the channel, James Street. Thank you so much for making this video possible. What James did was send me a pack of samples, and in that pack of samples were the three Bookers that I was not able to get this year and didn't see throughout the year, so that I could do a comparison with the one Bookers and the first Bookers that I ever got, which was the fourth release of 2022, Pinky's Batch, which I did critique a little bit when I first opened it up, but as it's had some oxygen and time, I've really come to enjoy it. So James, thank you so much. And now we get to compare the three other releases from 2022 and figure out which one I think was the best of the year. So in terms of familiarity, I've actually never had any of these three releases yet. So this will be pretty much the blindest of blind reactions other than the Pinky's Batch. I do know that it's a Booker's lineup, so I'm gonna mix them all up. It won't be a double blind, but it will be a true test of my palate and just seeing what comes across as the best whiskey of the bunch from 2022. Really excited. Let's dive in here, just quickly run down what the releases from Booker's were. So I don't know the full story of each of these, but I do have some of the stats. So Booker's 2022-01 was called Ronnie's Batch. It was 124.3 proof and a 6-year, 11-month, and 22-day release. So a little bit on the younger side there. The Booker's second release was the Lumberyard Batch, which was 124.8 proof and 7 years, 1 month, and 7 days. Again, James, thanks for labeling all these so that I know what we're looking at here. Then Booker's 2022-03, the third release, was the Kentucky Tea Batch, which was 7 years, 4 months, and 14 days, and 126.5 proof. This is the one I'm most interested in seeing how it does because I've heard great things about this third batch and that it might even be one of the best Bookers in years. And then we've got the Pinky's Batch, which I do have. Reminder here, it's 122.4 proof and 6 years, 10 months, and 10 days. So this is actually the youngest option here. I forgot that this was a younger one. So interested to see how these all compare. Like I said, I have come to like this Booker's a lot more as it's opened up. What I'm gonna do now is mix all of these up. I won't know what the order is. I'll clear it all off and we will just go in blind. All right, everybody, we've got the full blind set up here. We're gonna call what's on my right, your left, glass A, then B, C, D, all the way to your right here on the end. Let's dive in here. Just before we do that, I do want to say, if you want to be awesome, like James, who's pretty awesome and comments on a lot of the videos and is a longtime subscriber, would love to have you aboard for the whole journey of 2023. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button too, helps get the video out to more people. And then in the comments below, let me know, what do you think is going to come out on top and what was your favorite Booker's release of 2022 if you were able to try them? All right, glass A here on the nose. Punchy. They're all going to be punchy, I'm sure, because Bookers. There's a nice caramel presence to this one. A little bit of a dark cherry, too. Kind of like a dark cherry jam for me. Nice vanilla core to it as well. Some bit of honey. A little bit of like a cinnamon spice. But I think that vanilla cinnamon cherry is really what's core here. I'm not getting too much in the nut category, which is something I typically get on Jim Beam products. It's coming through maybe a little bit as like a almondy kind of note, but not too prominent in that peanut or peanut shell, but a nice vanilla, cherry, cinnamon punch kind of nose there to start off. Pretty solid. All right, let's go into glass B. Okay, so there's a little bit more of that peanut shell here. Still that good caramel vanilla base though. This one's not jumping out of the glass as much as Glass A. A little bit more subtle. Maybe even a little bit more youthful notes coming through. So more of like a light honey. Kind of like maybe a touch of rye grain and just some corn notes. Oh, but I got a nice bright cherry there. This one's a little bit lighter and brighter, I think, and with some of that more peanut shell. Glass A seemed a little bit darker and more vanilla punch. All right, let's go to Glass C on the nose here. Cheers. Oh yeah, okay. More of a nice like peanut butter, almost a rich peanut butter. Some maple syrup too. Brown sugar. Nice cinnamon. Something in that jam category as well. Might be more like a raspberry jam. Oh yeah, that is a nice nose. That is taking the cake right now by far. Glass C really coming out strong. Nice. All right, let's go to Glass D on the nose. Ooh, ethanol punch for me there. Okay. Give that a second. Be a little bit further away. Okay, so a little bit more of that peanut shell astringency. So a little bit more like Glass B here for me. A little bit of a grassy note. Some like white pepper spice. Maybe like a cashew or pistachio. I think a pistachio. You know how those have a little bit of like a salty spiciness? It's coming through. This one's again a little bit lighter, brighter. Some honey. Bright cherry. Okay. Well, for me, I think it's very clear that Glass A and Glass C are a step above right now, and Glass C is by far the one that I find the most pleasant. I really like Glass A. I think there's that good vanilla cinnamon, but Glass C is really, really good. Glass B and Glass D I'm struggling a little bit with. They're a little bit more astringent, a little bit more of that peanut shell and some bitterness and just ethanol punch on them. As these continue to open up, we'll continue to evaluate, but now we get to go to the palate, which will give us, admittedly, a lot more information. So we'll start just going A to D. On the palate here with Glass A. Cheers, everybody. Oh, it's spicy, but it's good. It's nice and dark and rich. That vanilla really comes through. There is that cinnamon spice all over it. Very popping on the palate. Lots sort of like pop rocks, like a really effervescent kind of palate. And then there's that, like I said, brown sugar, almost a maple syrup, nice and dark. I think the palate's darker here, which is nice. There is that little bit of peanut butter, peanut note coming through. And then I got more of that like cherry jam kind of thing. Little note of apple, so something a little bit more tart, but that's mixed in nicely with a good rounded, there's barrel char here, there's that dark brown sugar and maple syrup kind of note, and then a heck of a lot of spice. So that's a good start. With all of these, I'm gonna have to get some water in between to cleanse my palate, so let me do that. All right, moving on to Glass B here on the palate. Cheers, everybody. Okay. So the story from the nose has carried over a little bit. Much more subtle, much less punchy, and less of a good mouthfeel here. So Glass A definitely had the better mouthfeel for me. This one has more of a subtle, like bright cherry, some honey, still some of that peanut there, but it's more astringent overall. Less base tones, less well-rounded, still packed full of flavor with that honey and a lighter caramel, maybe even veering toward butterscotch. But again, this one just, it lacks those base tones. In terms of drinkability though, I'd say this one is higher than Glass A. I mean, Glass A came out with full force. Glass B has a much more easy sipping kind of experience, if Booker's can ever be called easy sipping, but it's still a little bit astringent for me and lacking some depth. All right, let me get some more water. All right, we'll go into Glass C now, which again was my favorite nose. Excited to dive into this on the palate. Cheers, everybody. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's a nice middle ground between A and B. So it's got the depth of flavor of A, but it's not quite as punchy and in your face and even a little bit overwhelmingly spicy. And then I guess if you mix in Glass B a little bit with a little bit tamer, you get something like Glass C, which is really nice, like brown sugar notes, good peanut butter. So staying in that nice, smooth, silky kind of peanut butter category. There's still that cinnamon spice that kicks up for me at the end, but it's a much easier sip and it kind of ramps up to that point. This one reminds me more of like pancakes and maple syrup. And then that's got like a raspberry jam and maybe even a little bit of chocolate on the palate. It really is nice. At first it was that lighter, sweeter vanilla and honey. Then as it kind of went to the mid palate and back palate, it got darker and then some spice bloomed up. That one's really, really nice. I think Glass A so far is the most powerful, but Glass C is the most well balanced. So really interesting there. Let's go into Glass D now. First I'm gonna get some water. All right, let's go to Glass D on the palate. Quickly revisit the nose. Some depth of flavor there now. I mean, a little bit more of a maybe blackberry note. Interesting. All right, palate. Okay, very solid. That one has opened up pretty nicely there. That had a more, similar palate to A and C there. There's a nice dark richness to it. There's some brown sugar. There's still some of that honey and vanilla as well. Good amount of spice. But what I noticed the most here is an oaky presence. That really came through in the mid palate. Gets a little bit tannic and a little bit tannic at the end too. But it had more depth than I was thinking. And then I do think there's a little bit of that blackberry kind of dark fruit note, maybe a little bit of plum, something along those lines. So a nice, interesting palate compared to the nose, which has opened up a little bit. Glass D is coming around a little bit, which is good. All right, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go back from D to A and do some A-B comparisons here and figure out what my official order is. I'm gonna fast forward through all of that for you guys so that this video is not too long, and then we'll reveal which Bookers from 2022 comes out on top for me. All right, everybody, I've gone through the tasting, A/B tested each of these. To be honest with you, I am feeling it. I am glad this is the last video I'm filming today because Bookers hits pretty hard. Hopefully I'm still coherent and can walk you through this experience. Let's go through the final ordering here. Things have shifted a little bit, which is to be expected with a product that is so high proof and kind of reveals its flavors and complexity over time. But in terms of the ordering here, fourth place was kind of obvious this whole time to me, unfortunately, and that was Glass B. Glass B just kind of lacked depth and was a little astringent, and compared to the others in the lineup, it just didn't open up as well. So Glass B suffered a little bit in this lineup. What was that? Let's see. Number 2, I believe that was the Lumberyard batch. Yep, we've got Booker's Lumberyard batch, 124.8 proof, 7 years, 1 month, 7 days. So not the youngest, but for me, it just had a more astringent profile to me overall and didn't open up as well as the others. In terms of third place here, this is actually where things got a little interesting. Glass A and Glass D were kind of fighting it out throughout the whole process, and it ended up being that Glass A came in third place. So really nice palate. It's very spicy. It comes so punch forward with that spice, a little overwhelming to the palate, whereas Glass D kind of opened up and developed over time. So Glass A here was, all right, I actually thought that might be it. That's the Pinky's batch. That's what I got this year, what I was able to purchase myself. That vanilla punch on the nose, it came out of the bottle very strong with that vanilla punch and that cinnamon, but it's very spice forward. So it continues to be that overwhelming kind of punchy palate, which is good if you're looking for that kind of thing. I was just kind of surprised that Glass D kind of overtook it as the race went on, which of course reveals a little bit about what was going on here. it was clear from the start. Glass C was a step above. It was really, really good. Glass D, though, opened up very nicely and got more depth, more of that like rich brown sugar, maple syrup kind of note. Yeah, and it's got this nice cinnamon spice too, kind of even like a nice rye presence to it. I don't know, brown sugar, it's just good. It opened up over time, and Glass D was in second place. Glass C was a clear winner. So let's see what Glass D was. Number 1, and that is Ronnie's batch. Wow, 124.3 proof, 6 years, 11 months, 22 days. This opened up great. I think their first batch of the year was really, really solid. Like, very nice, opened up well, got that depth of flavor that I'm looking for with that brown sugar note, really starting to give it some bass tones. But the whole time, Glass C, which we now know was Kentucky Tea Batch. Damn. What people said the whole year is absolutely true. This is sweeter right off the get-go. It just does not overwhelm your palate, but has so many good flavors. Cherry jam, raspberry, that brown sugar. Unlike sort of the critique I've had of Booker's overall, and with my own batch that I've had, the Pinky's batch, which is, it's a little too prickly, a little too overwhelming at times. Kentucky Tea Batch does not have that. So right from the get-go, it is just a sweet, inviting, really nice mouthfeel, great bourbon. And I have actually seen this on shelves sometimes and passed it up. So now I feel like an idiot. Sometimes I feel like the whiskey tube community all rallies around one thing and they all say the same thing, and I fall into that too. I repeat some of the things I've heard, but to be honest with you, this is just proof that they're right. Like, the Kentucky Tea Batch is a phenomenal whiskey. That's one of the better whiskeys I've ever had. It's just so full of flavor and so fruity and inviting. It's a little off profile for Booker's, but that's a good thing. And just proof positive that the whiskey tube community kind of knows what they're talking about. And man, that is good stuff. It was just so clearly a step above everything else. Immediately hit my senses as different and good and fruity and well-rounded, and it's just really good whiskey. All right, everybody, that's my full list. Kentucky Tea Batch, the clear winner. And I've never tasted it before, and it's just really, really good stuff. So let me know in the comments below if you've tasted through all of these before, and if you've had everything from 2022, what came out as your favorite. I do think that I'm not disappointed with any of these except for maybe Glass B with the Lumberyard batch. Everything else was like really worth the buy. Kentucky Tea Batch, I'm actually probably going to go out and look for trying to get one of those if they're still available, because that is really, really good stuff. Again, let me know in the comments below what you guys have tasted from this lineup and what you thought. Until I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.